Hi guys, this is your girl Wakeji Kamore and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. If you're here for the very first time, again, karibu sana. Please stick around to the end of this voice note or video. I don't know what this is. Remember to subscribe and to click the notification bell so that you don't miss any video that goes up. If you're here as a returning listener, I really do pray that you are growing in the knowledge of God as you continue through this Bible summary. So we only have 3 chapters left in the book of Judges. We have chapter 19, chapter 20, and chapter 21, which are so horrific. Oh my goodness. If they were to be scripted as a movie, they would be rated, those movies would be rated horror movie. I even wondered what these books are about and why they are here in the Bible. But as I mentioned, they are to show us what happens to a people, to a community, to a nation, both spiritually and morally, when they lose sight of God's word and they stop focusing and following the truth that is laid out in God's word as to how we approach God and how to relate with each other. So in these last 5 chapters, we have seen people doing what is good in their own eyes. We've seen people setting up their own thrones, their own shrines, appointing personal priests. And in chapter 19, we will see the height of moral degradation of this nation. So I'm not going to be reading this chapter. However, I will attempt to be a storyteller and share my lessons as I narrate this story. Right. So the chapter, which is chapter 19, starts off by stating that there was no king in Israel, which meant that they did what they thought was good in their sight, in their eyes. Then immediately it continues to tell us a story of this man who was a Levite living in the hill country of Ephraim. So this Levite is not named. We are not even told the name. So let's give him a name for the sake of the story. So it's easier for me to tell the story. So let's call him what? Let's call him Zach. If there are any Zach people out there listening to this, Pauleni Sana, because this Levite is not even a very good Levite. But anyway, let me just tell you guys a story. So Zach had taken a concubine. Let's call this concubine, let's call her Susan, because again, she's not named, she's just called a concubine. And of course, this was already off because Levites were supposed to be priests. They were supposed to be helping in the temple and they were to keep one wife. So the fact that he has a concubine is already off. So Susan, the concubine, was unfaithful to Zach. And then she ran off to her father's house in the city of Bethlehem, in the country of Judah. And then she stayed there for a whole 4 months. So she was like, mi nimechoka na huyu Zach, I've gone home. And she went home and she stayed there for 4 months. Right, so Zach, after 4 months of kukaa ngumu, decided to go after Susan. And he traveled from the hill country of Ephraim to the city of Bethlehem in the country of Judah to sweet talk his Susan and see that, whether she will come back with him or not. So to his surprise, Susan's father was very friendly and very hospitable. So he kept convincing Zach to stay longer and stay longer and stay longer. So he ended up staying for 5 nights at Akina Susan's home. And initially, he just wanted to stay there for like maybe a day or 2, but he ended up staying for 5 nights. He kept being told, kutakuwa usiku, just stay, let's eat, then you'll end up in the afternoon, like that, until he ended up staying for 5 nights. So finally, on the last day, he was like, I'm determined to go back home. So he just saddled his donkey, which were his 2 donkeys, and his concubine Susan, and off they went. But because it was getting dark, they went, on their journey, they were torn between sleeping over at 2 different cities. So the city of Jebus, which was occupied by a tribe that was not Israelite. So I don't know what they were. Probably they were Jebusites or whatever, because it was called Jebus. So there was this town. So they were like, do we sleep here or do we sleep in the city of Gibeah? The city of Gibeah was occupied by the tribe of Benjamin. And so for obvious reasons, they chose the city of Gibeah because Benjamins was a tribe and they were considered their Israelite brothers because, they're Israelites. So let's just go and do a sleepover here. At least these ones are Israelites and we know them and we know what they're about. Okay. So they went to the city of Gibeah. Strangely, for the Middle East, because Middle East is widely known for its hospitality, so strangely, Zach, Susan, and their 2 donkeys stayed at the city square for a while, and nobody dared welcome them in their homes. And reading the story later, you kind of understand why they did not want to host them, because hosting someone would mean that you are going to protect them with your life. You are going to do everything to keep them alive over the night. So taking someone in means that you have to protect them. So nobody wanted to welcome them in their home until this old man had mercy on them and he housed them. So later in the night, some hooligan guys from the city came to the old man's house and said, "Bring out the man who came to your house. We want to have sex with him." Or rather, bring out the man who came to your house. We want to have sex with him. I don't know, you guys. Does this sound familiar for you guys? Because this is the second time we are seeing this happen in the Old Testament. It happened again in Genesis chapter 19, which was in Sodom and Gomorrah, which was inhabited by Canaanites at that point. And now it's happening again in Judges chapter 19. And in this city of Gibeah, it is occupied by an Israelite tribe. Like now it's actually Israelites doing this. In both incidences, which is Genesis chapter 19 and Judges chapter 19, they are men demanding to rape other men. And both incidences are showcasing just how evil people can be, like how evil, like the height of wickedness. It's actually, I think, used showing this is actually used to show the height of wickedness in a certain community or in a certain city. Because I remember in Sodom and Gomorrah, it was actually to show the height of wickedness in Sodom and Gomorrah before God decided to destroy it. All right, so the Israelites at this point have lost their identity completely in God, so much so that they have become as evil as the Canaanites were. They have intermarried with them. They have worshipped their gods. They have completely forgotten who they are, that they were a chosen special nation, the people of God. Yani, wameingiana na watu mpaka now they have become like them. Kabisa. Like there is no difference between now the Israelite and the Canaanite because they have completely forgotten their identity in God. Anyway, moving on. So the old man offers to give her virgin daughter to the hooligans, but the evil men would not listen to the old man. So sasa Zach atafanya nini? So Zach, being the one who is wanted out there to be had sex with, Zach took Susan and threw her out. Imagine, Aki Zach, after you have gone to beg the father to just give you this girl, now you are there throwing her out. So he threw her out, and the hooligans raped her all night long. All night long. In the morning, when Zach was on his way out, he found Susan's body. We are not quite sure whether she was completely dead or she was just unconscious. But he put her on her. He found the body, and he was like, "Okay, wake up, let's get going." And of course, Susan did not respond. So he put her on top of a donkey, and they left. When he arrived at his house, he took a knife and cut Susan's body into 12 parts. So at this point, I am hoping that Susan is already dead because, why are you cutting someone who's alive? So he took her and cut her body into 12 parts. Then he sent the 12 parts of her body to the 12 tribes of Israel. And this was used to be done like with animals. Someone would take an animal, cut it in 12 parts, send it to the tribe. This is like calling people to war. So he sent but now he's doing it with a human body. Like this is degradation of human morals, zero. So he's done that, and everybody who saw these body parts said nothing like this has ever happened in Israel before. We haven't seen anything like this from the time we came out of Egypt. So let's discuss what to do. And that is where the chapter of that chapter 19 ends. It ends there. And let me tell you, this story is heavy and horrific. Like if I actually read it word for word, it is heavy and horrific. But we can learn this from it. That when we lose our identity in God, when we forget that as believers, we are children of God, and that we have been set apart for God, and that we worship God in this manner, we obey Him in this manner, we treat each other in this manner, we start to become just like the people of the world, as evil as the people of the world are, if not worse. like tunakuwa tu kama wao ama tunakuwa wasi. But it is my prayer, it is really honestly and truly my prayer, that we do not lose sight of who we are, and that the fear and the reverence of God will help us in knowing how to treat others, will help us in knowing how to worship God, will help us in knowing how to remain spiritually holy, morally holy, and that fear of God will help us to learn how to treat others. This is your girl Wakeji Kamore, and this has been Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. See you tomorrow.